Hey, welcome to the Uncommon Life podcast, the show where Lewis, Rich and myself delve into topics that are helping us build towards being in the best shape and health of our lives. It's fair to say that we're quite far into that journey. That said, we're changing our minds on various topics as we learn more about ourselves, and there's also some things that we each find uniquely challenging. Our hope is that you can relate to some of our journeys and challenges, and that you find it inspiring and useful as you build towards being in the best shape and health of your life. Today's episode is another random show, where we just have a big old chit chat about what's on our minds. We cover a lot of ground today: self-limiting beliefs, setting goals, world record for pull-ups, falling out of the flow of consistency, habit stacking, running backwards, yep, I really did say running backwards, Rich is not impressed, and working with a personal trainer. Before we get going, just a quick ask. If you like the episode, please give us a like on YouTube. And hey, even if you didn't, give us a like anyway, because it helps with the algorithm and it will help us reach more people. Oh, and follow the show wherever you listen to it. That would be helpful too. All right, enjoy the episode. So we'll have a bit of a random show today, right?
Let's do it.
Lewis, you mentioned there were a couple of things on your mind, so I reckon you can kick off. You said there were some things that you wanted to chat
about. Sure. There's one thing that I was going to talk about, and it's something I've seen this week, which I shared with both of you, with Truett Haynes, who just did the world record pull-ups.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm just like, I watched it. So this chap, Truett Haynes, I've got it on video now. I was going to kind of like show a little bit, like little share of it at the moment. In fact, let me do that, and then I'll talk to it. Let me see if I can figure this out. So if I do share, is it screen? And
how long until Goggins goes after it?
Window. What am I sharing?
Goggins did the record first, didn't he? And then people have been breaking it since then.
Here we go. So let me know if that is. Oh, I'm such a noob with all this shit. That didn't seem to be
working. We have to leave Daniel
like
to
my granddad trying to use a mobile. And actually, my granddad can use a mobile phone.
It's
like an old person trying to use a mobile phone.
To it, though. And so this guy.
He's giving up.
All right, let me share it.
Go on, you can do it, Lewis. You got it in you.
Let me share it.
You have to have it open in the browser, and then you just click share and click the browser.
That share. Here we go. There we go. We can see that now.
See, are you glad you pushed through? I'm glad you pushed through.
Yeah,
I can see all your bookmarks though, as long as you haven't got any dodgy bookmarks.
Oh, what's he looking at?
It's my work. It's my work.
Interesting.
That's my work. This is my work laptop. It's actually not my favourites at work. I feel like I get in trouble. But let's do this.
I was looking for adult entertainment. Didn't see anything there.
There's nothing of that. So I think this guy, what it's showing, he's done 1,570.
This guy's going for the most amount of pull-ups in 24 hours.
In terms of time, I'm not quite sure how much has lapsed. Is that 10? So it's not 10 minutes 27. So 10 hours and 27. Okay, 10 hours and 27 minutes have lapsed. It looks
like he's done.
And he's done 1,570. And he ended up doing 8,100 pull-ups in 24 hours, which, when you do the maths, is just under 6 pull-ups every minute for 24 hours.
Well, hang on, that's interesting. So, based on that current position, he is way behind, and he must have massively accelerated.
I think he may have upped it, but it's. I think the point that I just wanted to make is how much more capable we are as like human beings and physically than we mentally like give ourselves credit for. And
I mean, I'm not sure that dude's a human.
It's like just phenomenal. And just the mindset, the discipline, the focus. And I just think, unfortunately, we have so many self-limiting beliefs and we impose like doubt on ourselves mentally. And when I see something like this, I get so inspired and just blown away at just everything. The fact that he does, and like, I just want to like mention the number again. 6 pull-ups every minute for 24 hours. It's just insane. Like, just that his body can do that. So I then went down a bit of a rabbit hole, like, what has this guy done to train up for this? And on his Instagram page, you see him like training for it, and he was doing 1,000 pull-ups before going to work, before like 9 o'clock. So he'd start at 7 and do 1,000 pull-ups for 2 hours, and then he'd do 1,000 pull-ups in the evening when he got home. So he was doing like 2,000 pull-ups a day, training for it. I mean, I love this kind of shit. I just love it. I watch this and I'm like, what a savage.
You're going to get Rich started, and he's going to like do a pull-up challenge this weekend.
You really ain't.
So that's what I wanted to share. And I mean, I'll stop sharing it. And like, the guy ended up killing it. But I just think it's around just how physically capable we are as humans when we really apply ourselves. And it's just incredible. So I'm going to, I know I'm a bit of a loon anyway. Like, this is like, maybe like,
you're going to do a pull-up challenge.
Oh, I'm not going to do a pull-up challenge, but it's just like
8,000.
This guy, that's 8,000 is probably how many I'll do in the year. Like, what? Probably not even. I'd like have to work out. So if I do 300 a week, 300 times 52, I wouldn't even do that. And it's like, this guy did that in 24 hours. So I think that was all I wanted to talk about. I'm just on my mind because I watched this and I was like, I'm so motivated and inspired by it. It's just the whole next level.
It is super, super impressive.
Yeah. So I agree. Although I'm going to put a little caveat thing in there because I think
I'm going to do as well, but I'm waiting for Rich.
And I just think more broadly around like the human spectrum. So the way I like to think about it is, and I think it helps everyone, is because I think we think that we're all physically equal, and that's not a true statement. And the way I look at it is, let's say we use our genetic build-up. Do you remember at school, there was a really smart kid at school, right? And really smart. And
that was Daniel.
No, it wasn't me, that's for sure.
And then later in life, there's these people that are just on another level when it comes to IQ and capability. They are mentally at a different level of operations. You might have met a few of them through kind of your career and your work and whatever else. And when you spend time with them, you realize that they mentally operate at a capability level you can't even comprehend. And they say that with very high IQ individuals, chess grandmasters or people who are renowned kind of scientists, whatever else. They see the world differently. They can solve problems in different ways because they genetically have a different capability. It doesn't matter how much time you put into training that particular skill, let's say getting good at maths, or how much time you put into a particular problem-solving skill. You'll get better, but within your own limitations of your own capability that you're born with. And I think physically there's an element of truth in that as well, right? So that particular person, I think he is obviously physically gifted with a kind of some ingredients, which then obviously he's had to work his arse off for years and years and years and years to become as capable as he has. I'm not taking that away from him, but I don't think we're all equal. And so I think it's important that we kind of embrace that, yes, we should push ourselves and we should kind of embrace how far we can go. But we also need to get really comfortable that we are uniquely, like we are just unique humans, and that just because someone else can do that, it does not mean you're capable of doing it. And actually, by striving for it, like there are risks in doing it. By the way, the reason I think that way is because it stops me doing silly shit. It's like strongman, right? I love strongman. I love watching strongman. You ain't going to see me lifting 400 kilo outlet stunts, right? And it's because it's more obvious because they're massive and they're genetically ginormous. But I think it's a good thing to kind of embrace with that. So with your man doing all those pull-ups, I think for yourself, Lewis, I think actually you are a bit of a kind of a genetic gifted athlete when it comes to that stuff, that you probably could push yourself through a lot of it. I know for me personally, like the thought of doing 6 pull-ups a minute, maybe for a minute, but by minute 2 or 3, this isn't going very well.
That's not true. You could do it for 15 minutes, I reckon. I reckon you could go for a little while.
Guarantee you. Well, I mean, I'd have to train for a long time, but I'd injure something if I tried to do that kind of straight away.
Yeah.
I just would. And I get more comfortable knowing that kind of we're all different.
I'm not sure I'd entirely agree on the him being genetically gifted. And I'm definitely not genetically gifted in any way. Like, I'm really not. I'm just a consistent motherfucker. And I've just been training hard for 30 years. That's it. I'm not really gifted. If you would have seen me at the age of 15, I was not gifted in any way. There are people that are. I think there are some elite athletes that are naturally gifted. But I just think the point I was trying to make is we are all so much more capable than we think. And a lot of the time, I think we can we can push ourselves just that little bit more. And yet, so you pushing yourself to a certain will be different to how I push myself or how Daniel does. But I think we are all so much more capable. And when I see things like this, it just takes things to another level. I like Googled a few other things like the push-up, Guinness World Record, and you can go down just this crazy rabbit hole of Guinness World Records, and it is mind blowing what some people have done. It really is. So I think there are some people who have differences for sure, but this guy he tried to do it a year ago. So he tried to beat Goggins' world record and failed, and then trained his absolute arse off for like the last year and got it done.
Yeah.
So sorry, firstly, I 100% agree with human potential, and we can push ourselves. But I will still respectfully disagree that the genetics play a big role in the maximum optimization capability of a human, of an individual human. And so I think I'm not taking away the ridiculous amount of hard work that man's put in, but I reckon if you compared him genetically, his bone structure, his tendon structure, his muscle mass structure, his metabolism, all those bits combined will allow him to outperform somebody else who puts the same amount of effort in over the same period of time because of his genetic makeup. And which is why it's what you have to, right? That's why you have elite athletes. It's just part of being human.
I see that for elite athletes, but not so much something like this.
Isn't he an elite athlete? Isn't that an elite athlete achievement?
I look at because his dad is what's his name, Cameron Haynes, who's like an ultra marathon runner. So I don't know if he's naturally gifted or if he was in an environment where I think his dad like had them doing trail runs when they were 7. So I think he's just been, I don't know what the right word, like groomed. I don't know if that's, but he's just been in a competitive environment where he would stretch himself consistently from a really young age. So I don't know whether genetically he's got any particular makeup, but I don't disagree. For certain sports, you've got runners, right? Their build is a certain way. Their legs are longer, their torsos are smaller, they can run. And then you've got swimmers, their arms are longer, their torsos, and like you've got all that kind of stuff, right? Where there are certain advantages. You've got basketball players. If you're 7 foot, you're going to be, you'll do better at basketball than if you're 6 foot. But I just think something like this, I'm not sure. So like, and the CrossFit Games guys, yeah, they've probably got a certain build. Would you say they're all clearly specimen, but yeah.
I think Daniel.
You're on mute, Daniel.
I can see Daniel chat, but nothing's coming out.
Yeah, I just unmuted. I coughed and then I forgot to unmute. I mean, you get lots of different shapes and sizes in CrossFit. But look, I would actually agree with you both. Like, I think Lewis, and I think Rich was sort of agreeing with you, but just sort of disagreeing with some of it anyway. Like, I would agree with you that like I think we kind of have these, like most people have these self-limiting beliefs about themselves, and actually they can push themselves much more than they think is possible. Like you see these people that, I was listening to someone the other day and they basically said that they just wanted to run a marathon in a month's time and they hadn't done any running and they just trained for a month and they run a marathon. And it's like most people would just be like, I can't run a marathon in I think most people would be like, impossible. I can't go. And I know one of someone I used to work with is kind of a bit of a lunatic like that. And he ran a marathon and he knew it was coming up and he didn't train for it. And he kind of like just only woke up to the fact like about a week before and he just ran a marathon. Now, like he was pretty battered afterwards and I think he got some injuries and stuff from it. But like, it goes to show that like, if you can achieve much more than you probably think, right? And I think we all impose these and have these like self-limiting beliefs about ourselves. But the reality is that people do such like ultra runners and things like that. Like they do things which you would just think were impossible of yourself like a while back. So I definitely agree with that. But then I also agree with Rich in that I think genetically gifted is probably the wrong word. I think we're all built different and therefore we have different risks around stuff like, and I think Lewis, you said that you're not genetically gifted, but you are different and you are built different to me and Rich. And this is not an excuse like for me to like not push myself. And by the way, that could be because of just how your body is built. It could be because of the way that you've trained since you were very young. You've built up a certain like level of robustness about yourself, but you are able to tackle things and challenges
Yeah,
more than
I
me
hear
and
that.
Rich. Like you can withstand it, and me and Rich can't. That's why I remember having a conversation. I think it was a conversation with either Rich or my PT, where it's like you can't focus on everything at the same time. And for me, there's a bunch of things, right? You can do strength, you can have performance. There are other things going on, and I have to admit at this point, I don't give a fuck about anything performance related. I'm not trying to do any challenges. I'm not trying
Yeah,
to like. I'm not trying to. I'm not like whereas you are, Lewis. But I don't care about any of that stuff, right? I just want to look good and I want to feel good. All right.
yeah,
And even to the point where strength is going to help me achieve that, but it's not the primary goal, because if I went after strength, I'm going to start to kind of cause other problems. So like I intentionally let that stuff go, but I do it for a reason, not just because I'm only focusing on one thing, but because I know that if I try and go after the performance thing, I will cause myself more problems. I get flare ups just in the way that I'm working now, and it's pretty low intensity, well, low volume. I'm being pretty careful about how I'm doing things. I've got like a bit of shoulder pain, a little bit of a tight back. I've got a bit of an issue with my hand. Like I just the way that I'm built, I am much more higher risk around injury. So therefore, I'm just not interested in pushing beyond a certain level, which technically, yes, is possible, and some people probably think is impossible. But for me, it's just not smart. And I think that is, I am, unfortunately, that's how I'm made up. So I have to make a different set of decisions. And I think that you are made up differently, either genetically or because of how you've conditioned your body based on your history. So I think we are all different, and it would be ridiculous of me to start trying to kind of like take on challenges that might seem impossible to me, but they might be possible. But it's like I run. At the moment, I'm just doing like slow 30-minute runs as part of my zone 2. But I know that I am getting up to a point where I'm starting to feel my hip a little bit as I get towards the end of the kind of like 30 minutes. So yes, I
yeah,
could go out and run half a marathon. I have the capacity to do it tomorrow.
yeah,
Go and run half a marathon, but I will fucking break en route. so,
yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
not interested in it. So I don't know, like that's
I,
not that eloquent, but it's just I agree with you, Lewis.
yeah,
But we have to also respect the fact that we're all built different, and there's a different level of risk for all of us in doing that.
yeah. If I could just wrap it up though by saying, I'm not asking people to go and do like a
I know.
marathon. I'm not suggesting people try and break a world record in anything. I'm just saying whatever we're doing, we could probably do a little bit more
I agree with that.
if we push this. And it's not just with work. It's not just with like physical stuff or training. So like as an example, so I was just sharing with you guys that we've recently just sold our house and bought a new house. It's something my wife and I have been talking about for the past 18 months. We've been like looking online, there's like realestate.com, like seeing houses. But in our mind, we were like, oh, we have to sell our house first. We then have to buy another house. We got the 3 kids. We need to coordinate. And it was just like, it's just going to be too hard. Like we can't possibly do this right now. And then we saw a house that we really liked and we were like, that's the house. We did everything within 3 weeks. Like sold our house, shipped everything out, bought the new house, coordinate for like because we were like so
Yeah,
zoned in on it. We went from 0 to like 1,000 in the matter of like a day, and then we were like, we're just going to get this shit done. And previously, it was like, oh, this can be too fucking hard. But then we were like, we saw it, and we did it. So it's just, I think it's just an example of if there's other things that people want to do as well, when you apply yourself, like, and really have like something that you're set on doing,
totally agree.
you
Yeah.
can get it done.
You'll like this guy that I'm listening to at the moment. I got a sense that Rich probably won't. But like there's this guy called and I know you're not so tuned into the kind of like necessarily the podcast world, and he's a bit of a self-help kind of guru-ish type of dude,
Yeah.
right? But there's a guy called Dr. Benjamin Harding, I think his name is. But his whole premise is that 10x is easier than 2x. And it's basically, look, if you set yourself an impossible goal over what seems like an impossible time frame, what happens is all of the sorts of shit that's just on your plate, like the 8% that you do, is not going to get you there. And as soon as you start to like set that very impossible goal over over like an unreasonable time frame, you start to latch onto the 1 or 2 things that are the only things that are kind of going to get you there, which you would have otherwise not necessarily thought to do unless you set that really impossible goal. And it's something that I'm thinking a lot about at the moment, because the way that I've thought about goals, I've been like really, really detailed SMART goals. They made my life miserable. I then went to kind of like having more of a direction that I push in, but not really having any goals. And it's a much nicer way to live life, but you don't have the urgency, and you don't like. There's something about it that doesn't feel right, and this is resonating with me because it's like if you really approach a very high level goal, like almost what feels like an impossible goal, you will find a way to do it, or at least you'll find a way to get quite close to it, and you'll surprise yourself. And actually, you drift towards a smaller number of things that you would have otherwise not thought to do, because it's the only way to achieve such an impossible goal. And it's a little bit different to what you just said, but it goes to say, like, if you thought, well, okay, fuck, we're just going to do this house thing, all of a sudden you start to move a bunch of stuff out of the way that doesn't matter. You just do the things that are going to help you achieve it, and then you surprise yourself that you can get the result. So I'll send you I'll put the link in the show notes, and he's got a book that I'm reading at the moment, which is his concept as 10x is easier than 2x, because it sharpens your focus and you just focus on less things that will get you there. It's quite interesting.
That.
It's resonated with me at the
moment.
Love
that. Yeah, really good.
He's a good guy.
All right, chaps. So what was anything you guys had on your mind recently you wanted to share or go through?
Well, Rich is struggling with a whole load of noise in life at the moment, right?
We don't need to talk about my life.
Don't want to talk about
my
that.
Life.
But you're finding it a little. We don't have to talk about it for too long, but you're finding it a little challenging from a mindset perspective, right? Like just getting in the flow and staying there.
Yeah, look, I mean, we touched on it last time, and it hasn't really got much better. Yeah. So I suppose I think everyone goes through this, but I think I've definitely fallen out of, unless you use the word, Daniel, you like this word, flow. I think I've fallen out of my natural flow in the last couple of months. So if you look back over, let's say you take a 12-month window, like I'm in that period of time for the first 10 months of that, I was incredibly consistent. Like really very just worked out every day. I had something going on every day. It was just, diet was on point. It was just very consistent. And then that was kind of fine, right? And actually I was very happy in that world. And then in the last 2 months, it's doing lots of different things have kind of got in the way, and it's kind of just resolved. Like, I had a holiday. I had a muscle minor surgery that took me out for a few weeks. I managed to strain a muscle when I came back from that. I'd kind of finally kind of got back. It took me a couple of weeks to warm back up into things. And then I finally, last week, I think I did like a solid 5 days of really good strain, like as in whoop strain. I didn't strain anything, whoop strain. So, like lots of good workouts, feeling great. Then I went on a driving trip this weekend, which is great fun, by the way. Like, it's great fun. But like it was like 4 days, 1,600 miles of driving. My average step count over those kind of 4 days was 2,500 steps, to give you some idea of like how like static I was, like just hours and hours of sitting still. And then again, it's that movement, because there's lots of twisty roads, so it's kind of like a very very different. And then got back, work was behind, so lots of work stuff going on. And so like I woke up this morning, and actually I messaged Daniel because I was really just down in the dumps, and I was kind of like, well, what's going on? And actually, weirdly, it's just I've fallen out of that consistency flow, and it's just I've just struggled to get it back. So I'm just in a bit of a grumpy mood. I didn't eat brilliantly over those 4 days, not bad. And when I think about it logically, in comparison to most people, I probably ate brilliantly. Like my protein was still like 200 grams a day. Like I had one dessert in 4 days, and kind of like because I knew I was sitting down, so I knew my calorie burn was like zero. Like literally, I don't know. I think Whoop had me down to like 1,700 calories a day or something. Like literally, it was no energy being expended. But I still like really was grumpy and beating myself up. I'm better now because I've eaten. I think I was like yesterday I had an all-day event, and the way I went about it was like, right, I need to get my calories kind of low and under control until I'm back in the exercise flow. And so I fasted the entire day and then had dinner at 8 o'clock. And so I massively underate yesterday, which was silly to do it. There was an event, so I couldn't eat anything at the event because it was just like white bread sandwiches, which I wouldn't touch. And so what ended up happening is I've kind of undereaten. I woke up this morning, I was really, really fucking grumpy. I think that's probably the best way to put it. I've warmed up a bit now. So yeah, Tony, I suppose the point there is that
let me hold on. I've just got Rich's WhatsApp message in a browser. Let me just bring it up.
Yeah. Like, I'm a bit better now, but still not great. But I think the topic there is that I find it really hard, and whether this is just a personal thing, I don't know how you guys find it. I think Daniel, you're better at handling this than I am. when I've fallen off of that flow, even if I look at the stats, I'm still working out reasonable amounts. And like I did five days last week I worked out, and I've now had 5 days off, and obviously I'm back on it again today. But the point is, after those 5 days off, I'm really down. Like I'm just like, this is toys out the pram type thing. Fuck everybody, fuck work, fuck it all. I'm done. Like everyone can go away because I'm getting back into the gym. And then what happens is my mentality is that I'm going to overcompensate. So now I have to really control myself because my injury risk has now been times by 100 because in my head, I've got to do 5 days worth of work today, which I know is the most stupid thing. And logically, I tell myself that's really daft, but emotionally, kind of that's what I feel like I need to go do. And so that's the kind of placement. So that's what Daniel's referring to is I've fallen out of that kind of flow state. I've lost my discipline a little bit. Life's got in the way, and now I need to get back on the wagon. And of course, I've got a holiday coming up. Well, I do a lot of holidays, it sounds like, doesn't it? I've got a holiday coming up next week. So now I've only really got like 10 days until that. So now I'm like, it's all in my mind. I'm like, oh no, how am I going to make that work? And like, do you know what I mean? Like it puts me in a bad position. Of course, like actually, if I didn't have a wife and kids who I'm taking on holiday, I'd probably cancel the fucking holiday. I'd be like, fuck the holiday. I actually want to get back into routine. Everyone leave me alone and let me get back into the consistency. So that's what Daniel's referring to. I'm just in a bit of a funny mood today. Based on that.
There's a few things you said in there though, mate. And I have to say, I go through similar things. But the difference is I think you're a lot more like your control on your diet is phenomenal. Like honestly, I got to give you so much credit for it. You may not have done the exercise that you would have liked to have done, but you went away and it was a birthday celebration. You were away for 4 days and you had one dessert in 4 days. I would have been an absolute glutton. Like I would have been like, fuck it. I'm on holiday. I'm going to eat whatever. And then I'd be feeling the other way because I would have been like, I would have done exercise. I would have found something exercise-wise to do, but I just would have eaten like a complete knob. And then yesterday at the event that you're at, your discipline around like not having white sandwiches, like I would have smashed the sandwiches. I'd be like, fuck it, it's free. I want to have some sandwiches.
It's free.
So I actually think like your level of discipline on your food is phenomenal. Like it's so good, man. Like I just think you've just got an expectation of yourself, like we all do. The three of us do. We just want to be optimal, really good all the time. And unfortunately, it doesn't always happen. But I think your diet is always on point. So I just wanted to call that out because I would have been eating all the cake.
Yeah, no, I would be in the same. I probably no. I mean, look, I think I'd probably be as bent out of shape about it as you if I was. Like basically your situation is pretty disjointed at the moment. Like you haven't got like consistent momentum, right? And that would probably annoy me just as much. I'm probably slightly better at being able to, like we said this on a few episodes ago, right? Throughout the whole year, you can afford to have probably a couple of bad months on average, for a handful of really great months, a handful of really good months. And again, yours aren't bad, but what you're probably seeing is somewhere between bad and good for the last month or 6 weeks, and it's just feeling shit because you're in it and it feels pretty like packed in around that. And the reality is you're going to go on holiday and you're going to come out of it and then you're probably going to be like pretty straight through to Christmas and you're going to get back on the great train again. And when you look at it as an average, it's totally fine. And like that's just the way that life happens sometimes, and it's just happening for you. But like like my August with school holidays and 2 trips and stuff like that, that was my moment then. But it doesn't help when you're in it because it's just super annoying. But your perspective of like, yeah, you did 5 days worth of strain. That was like I said to you on Friday. I was expecting just to be whooping rich because he undertalks himself because that's he's like, oh, I'm annoyed about this, I'm annoyed about that. And I'm like, geez, I've actually got to work pretty hard on a week. Like I'll definitely beat Rich this week, but he only had 5 days to play with, and I had 7. And at 5, I was quite far behind, and I only beat him because I had the other 2 days and it averaged out stronger. So like over the course of 10 days, your average strain and your average eating, I'd say still falls into the good category, not even the bad category. And like sometimes you have to really take a step back and have that perspective. But it's hard to do when you're in it, and also your personality means that you'll find it harder than most of.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. But when you are in it, it's kind of like you almost forget the historic stuff. It's like an emotional kind of vibe, and then you're like, right, I need to get back on it. and get back into it. I don't know if you've had that, like, and I'm normally okay. Like if it's a week or two, but I think so. It's been kind of consistent now. Like I've been back on it for a week and then I've been knocked off it again and then back on it. So I haven't had like, normally I would have, let's say, 6-week block of it being pretty spot on, then a week off, and then like back on another 6-week block, right? Or 2 weeks off, but it would be consistent either side. It's been like a consistent up and down.
You've had a lot of unusual events that have bunched up.
Yeah.
Right?
And it was fine, but I've definitely noticed this last one. It's playing on my mind a bit now. Like it's kind of like just riling me, and which is just, you know, I've got to get back on it in this next kind of. I've got to handle this next 10 days well, and then deal with the holiday, and then get back. And you say then it's a straight run through to Christmas, and I just don't think anyone. I won't be doing any socialising for 6 weeks. I don't think. I think I'm telling all my friends just to fuck off and leave me alone because I just need to like. Just get
when
back
do you get
on
back
some
from
things
holiday?
before Christmas. First week of November, end of the first week of November, and then I'm back in the
You've
UK.
got like
so I'm coming
5
back
or 6
December 18th.
fairly. Yeah, so you've got like 4 or 5 weeks of basically just being able to kind of string together a really good amount of consistency before you go into the holiday break.
Yeah, and then straight through to Christmas, and Christmas will be Christmas.
I am looking forward to Christmas, but Jesus Christ, my like bad food habits thing. Like Lewis is probably the same as me. Is like there's just going to be like Quality Street. Now I know that each Quality Street is about 50 calories as well. Like I'm going to be switching off MyFitnessPal on the 24th of December, and it's getting turned back on the 2nd, and I'm just going to have to figure it out. But like, it's going to be really bad for me because if it's there, it's getting eaten. And at Christmas, it's just spread around everywhere.
That's okay. Christmas. I think that's fine. It's Christmas.
Christmas. I know that October's normally a bit of a write-off food-wise for me because it's my birthday, it's our wedding anniversary. There's always a few things going on. But I 100% feel you with the lack of consistency. I get grumpy after 3 days of not being able to have like the routine and the pattern. So yeah, I can empathise for sure.
Thank you. There you go. So there you go, Daniel. That's it from me.
That's good.
It's
10-minute coaching session over. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for my weekly therapy.
I got something cool to chuck in there as well, and like it's nice when something like this clicks and happens quite nicely. Like if you read like James Clear, Atomic Habits, and other people that talk about habits, they talk about habit stacking, which is essentially attaching one habit to another, and then you just finding it a lot easier to do something that is historically been quite hard to do. And that's really clicked for me in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Like you're probably both familiar with like the knees over toes guy, right? I can't even think of his name now. I don't know why I can't
Patrick,
think of his name. Ben, is it Ben Patrick?
Ben Patrick, yeah.
Or Patrick Ben, or one of the two. I bought his book. I really rate his stuff, but I just haven't. It's like mobility. It kind of falls a bit into the mobility category for me, which is like I just struggle to kind of either one have the motivation to do it or just to kind of fit it in with everything else I'm doing. And I put together like this pretty basic like his basics basically, which is like walk back. Ideally, it would be dragging a sled backwards, but I don't have a sled, so it's kind of walk or run backwards for 10 minutes, and then it's a mixture of calf raises and the tibulus kind of raises as well. And I did like one week, and then I would do another one like 3 weeks later. Just no consistency at all. But then what I did one time, and it just was completely random, is I said, I'm just going to go out and do that 20-minute routine. It's 10 minutes running backwards, 25 calf raises against the wall, 25 tibulus, and then 25 calf, 25 tibulus. It takes about 20 minutes. So I do that, and then I just did the zone 2 afterwards, did an hour of zone 2 afterwards. And it just clicked in my mind. It's like, this is a nice warm-up for my zone 2, which I typically don't warm up as well for because it's not programmed by Jamie, and I just do it off my own back around the usual programming from the PT. So like this is like hitting two, like this is really good for me. One, it serves as a nice warm up for my zone 2, and now actually I know I do 2 zone 2 sessions a week. So for last week and this week, I've basically just been consistently like I'm on course for getting like 2 knees over toes sessions done per week, because I see it as my warm-up for my zone 2. And I'm like, man, I just think I've cracked it. I'm going to be doing 2 per week every week now, because I just know I go out, do 20 minutes of it. It's a perfect warm-up for my running. I'm outside because I do it outside, and then I just go straight into a 30-minute run, and then I do bike and boxing.
Sorry. I have to interrupt you. I've got to interrupt you. You're running backwards.
I know. Yeah, it's
outside.
Awesome. Yep. I go to the rec.
Where?
It gets some looks.
In public.
Yep, in public. It's pretty funny. And you
It
know, you
is
reach
pretty
that.
funny. For like 16-year-olds chucking eggs at you. That's what happened where I grew up.
You know, you reach that point in life where you just don't care anymore.
Just don't give a fuck.
You're
Yeah.
like, hold on a minute.
Do what you like.
Where are we? It's a video.
How do you find running backwards? Because I've never thought of running backwards, but I've thought of like the walking backwards.
Yeah, have you fallen over yet and cracked your head on the floor? Like, where are you at with it?
It could be a bit sketchy.
No.
Beautiful. 30.
The
other group warnings. Recover from that. The foot that carries.
This is the he does it with
It's gonna like
Mark
that's a
Bell, I
drill
think
in
it is.
mental. Someone's really used to be far. You get the most interesting
man, I
things.
can't find
like
a bit
that.
where they're running backwards. No.
There's no like hierarchy.
Yeah, there
Your
you
own
go.
kids, 2 younger.
There you go.
Yep, let's go. Yep.
Like that.
Where the hell did he come up with the concept of running backwards being good for you? Like that's
So
most
he-
unnatural.
He talks a
like-
lot about kind of these moments that like basically where your knee is over your toes, and a lot of his stretching and stuff is like he talks a lot about squatting really deeply, and that's why he says that pulling a sled backwards is really good because as you're pulling it backwards, your knees are constantly over your toes, which is where his name comes from. And he's like, if you don't have a sled, the best way of doing that is walking backwards or running backwards because it kind of mimics the movement. So I've just started doing that, and I just go to the rec. It's obviously huge open grass field, and it's all laid out with football pitches, so I know there's not no rough ground or anything like that. And I basically there's like this almost like 2 widths of football pitches, and I just do that back and forth, and it looks like super weird to people.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm just going to put it out there. I don't know the science of it, right? But biomechanically, we're not designed to move backwards that way. You have no protection mechanisms if you fall. So, like if you look at the way that our joint structure works in comparison, let's say an ostrich, which has where your kneecaps can bend both ways, we are designed to move forwards, and all of our protection mechanisms, if we trip or fall or whatever else, we can protect ourselves. We have no protection move if we fall backwards, hence us not moving backwards. So I would be really I'm going to go Googling now. I want to understand this. Like, I understand the concept of like it causes certain stretching and stuff, but like I'm sorry, I can't be a proponent of that. Like, if you actually do fall from your height, you will crack your head on that pavement, and that is you have a real high risk of proper injury at that point.
Well, falling. So, you mean like in the moment of running back?
In the moment, yeah, exactly, yeah. Because so if you fall forward, right, you have all this protection in front of you to ensure that your cores, like your head, your brain, and your core parts of your body are protected. Normally, you put your hands out, but even if you don't put your hands out, right, there's a lot more protection. You fall backwards, especially if you're running on pavement. Like what,
I'm obviously not running backwards on a road like what I just showed you. Like I'm running.
They just were.
Yeah, they were. I'm running
sorry,
backwards
I need
on
to
a
look
grass
into that.
field. Yeah.
I think there's got to be better, safer ways of the movement.
The sled, the backward sled, I think is brilliant. So it's funny.
I wish I had a sled. I wish I had a sled.
I wouldn't recommend running backwards on pavement, especially after I smashed my hand. I hear your points, Rich, but I think what you're doing, Daniel, I love what you've said around that with how you've layered it into your zone 2.
Yeah, the point is the habit stacking more than anything.
That is so good because the backward walking, it just works. Rich, it just works. Honestly, it just works. The backward walking, and they've got the sled. I just haven't been able to figure out where I can do it. Because I wanted to get a sled, and I was like, "Oh, do I buy a sled?" And then I looked at one, and it was like £500 for like a sled, mechanical one. And I was like,
"You have to buy like the AstroTurf because they don't really go on concrete
and it's just
well.
like." Oh, and then I looked at you've got bands, and you can do like some backward walking with the bands, but that didn't quite work for me. But actually, I think maybe just backward walking might work. And then I think the tib raises and the calf races, I think that's a really good one because I might start getting into doing a bit more zone 2. But I love what you've said around how that is now just your warm up for your zone 2. You don't need to think about it.
Yeah,
automated, bosh.
It's 100%.
I love that stuff. Yeah,
I can't think that there's a scenario now where it doesn't get done twice a week. And again, like, you can look into kind of like the benefits of it all, etc. Like I tend to not go too deep on those things. Like that guy seems to be saying a lot of smart stuff. There's a lot of people he's helped to either jump high or reduce knee injuries or reduce like back injuries, and a lot of it is around kind of that kind of knees over toes kind of movements and stretches. So just knowing that twice a week I'm going to run backwards for 10 minutes and mimic the kind of like backwards sled dragging again on grass. There's not a lot of risk for me, like uniquely in that. And then doing the calf stretches and the tibialis stretches, etc. It's just like, I just see that as my zone 2 session now. And it's just, I've gone from like, being horribly like not being able to do it. I literally did 1 or 2 sessions over like 6 weeks, and now I'm doing 2 a week. By the way, that guy's also brought out a walking backwards treadmill.
I saw that, product. And I like the one that you can just hold on to and just stand. I was like, that's great. You could actually do it whilst working. Be here at work, use it as a stand-up desk. I was like, there you go.
Sideline, you could still watch practice. You can speed.
It's nice. It's funny though.
I want to get one of those. That does look good.
You two are fucking crackers. I'm going to let you have that to yourselves. But I do agree with the habit stacking, Daniel. I think I massively agree with, if you've got one habit that you've kind of got under complete control, extending that same habit stacking is such a great health way of doing it. So I think it's great.
Another one is my walking, right? I know you take the mick out of me for my extra long warm-ups, but one of the reasons that it is an extra long warm-up is that every training session starts with a 20-minute walk. And then I do my dynamic warm-up. And it's just like, it's just 2,500 steps. That happens every day I work out. These little things, if you can stack them together and just make them convenient for you, you're just much more likely to be consistent with it.
It's also routine. See, I love routine. And I think I've mentioned it before. It's like, I like knowing this is my warm-up. I do the same warm-up. I do the similar workouts. And so I'm actually going to pinch that from you, Daniel. And I'm going to do my tibs and my calf raises and maybe a bit of backward walking before I do my zone 2s. And I'll be like, that'll be whenever I do one of those. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pinch it because I've been wanting to do a bit more of the knees over toe stuff as well. I like that. I'm going to pinch it.
Yeah, here's another thing as well, which is like interesting.
I won't be running backwards on concrete though.
My headphones are playing up. It's such a pain. Sorry, I missed that entirely. Let's carry on.
I said I won't be running backwards on pavement though, because safety comes first.
And Daniel, as you're already looking a bit weird, you should put a cycle helmet on. I'd feel much more comfortable than if you did have a fall. You've got a little bit of protection. I mean, if you could do that for me, I'd appreciate it.
Fern has got some like knee pads and elbow pads as well that she does on her roller skates, so I could put those on as well. They're pink though, and they're quite small.
Yeah, your knees are fine because they're at the front and you're falling backwards. It's just your head we need to protect. So I think just to put Fern's cycle helmet on, that'd be great. And
I think it's a good idea.
As you apparently don't care what people think, you're not going to care anyway. So that's okay.
No, yeah, exactly. I don't care.
Do that for me. It makes me more comfortable rather than coming to visit you in some fucking brain injury ward.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that
from the local hospitals.
In other breaking news, Rich is now working with a personal trainer.
I am indeed. Yeah. Is that breaking news?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Lewis. How you finding
Lewis? Yeah, Lewis. Hey, heads up. Well, I only started this week, which obviously poor guy's got his work cut out, so I'm in such a bad mood. But
and I did tell him that you would be an arse to work with anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I told him that too, so he's got fair warning. But no, so basically, I've been doing my own programming for quite a long time, and then I've been using the Mind Pump guys, who I rate really highly. I've been using some of their programs for the last while as well. I really like the Mind Pump guys, and I like their material. I do feel they can lean a bit more towards kind of the bodybuilding aspect, and I don't want to be quite as far that way. And so, I end up supplementing their workouts with my own stuff, whatever. And then obviously I've seen Daniel in the last while has made so much good progress with using a personal trainer. So I spoke to the guy kind of a few months back, and then we started working together. And so I officially have a personal trainer as of this week. And I did the kind of first session on Tuesday, which was like a movement mobility session, so he can start seeing kind of my limitations and my kind of various kind of movement patterns and whatever else. And so for every day now, he'll be scheduling kind of my daily workouts and building in my various stuff. And so, looking forward to seeing how that goes and running that for the next kind of 12 months and just seeing what kind of progress it can make. And I'll report back as we get going. But I'm quite, like I say, I'm quite competent at doing my own programming, but actually by being responsible for my own programming, I was deviating and changing it around too much. And then this is my personality type. I'm not very good at just stay in the course on the one thing. I'm very good at the discipline. I will do the workout, whatever else. But what happened is the workouts themselves, I kind of make them up a little bit and make it a bit more exciting. And then I wasn't consistent enough. And so I think having somebody else kind of responsible for that part of the programming will control two things. One is make it keep it interesting enough, which is important to me. And the other one is controlling my kind of volume and output, because I think I naturally over volume the workouts for mental and like psychological reasons versus what's good for my body. And so I think having somebody else manage that is going to make a big difference. And so, yeah, excited to get that going. I'll report back as we go. What I did learn, which was great, is how useless some of my movements are and how immobile I am in so many ways. I'm doing these tests. I'm like, shit, my shoulder doesn't do that. That's not good, is it? So it was quite good to even just go through that kind of first testing phase, because it really did highlight some kind of pretty significant weaknesses, which I want to get tackled.
When you said that at the beginning that he came, because I was going to ask whether it was in the flesh or online, and the fact that he came, and when you said he did that first session where he was checking all your mobility, I was like, that's perfect. It's exactly what you want. You want somebody to just observe how you move, what's good, what's bad, where your weaknesses are. I think that's awesome, man. I'm keen to hear how you feel over the next 3 months, and also the way that you've like just gotten somebody else to program it and do it for you now. It's just something off your mind that you don't have to do as well. It's offloading it. He does it. He's a pro. There you go. Go do that. Yeah, good one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think the trainer is very much inspired by Marcus Philly, which I don't know if you know him or read any of his stuff, but he's very much in around good movements. And as I said, one of my goals for this year was to get strong in those movements. And so a lot of this is also just about really tackling, like, for example, my shoulder mobility is really a bit screwed, especially my one side is like really bad. And so focusing on that over the next 12 months, like that, they're kind of be part of my goals are getting strong in those movements and tackling some of those kind of inherent mobility issues before I get too old and they're ingrained forever. Like I kind of feel like, it's kind of, for me, this next kind of the 40 to 50, that doesn't, anyway. So I'm 40 in April. And so for 40 through to 50, I think is the last shot I've got of building some good mass and getting good mobility in those joints before I think it then gets really tough post 50, as far as everything I've kind of understand and read. So that's kind of my time horizon.
I'll be interested to hear the kind of exercises he gets you doing for your shoulder mobility and see what works and what feels good.
Yeah, I'll share it as I go. And
shoulder mobility is super important.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good for you.
Sorry, Daniel, I was going to say, so how, with your running backwards then, have you noticed anything? Are you feeling any better on the knees, or is it still too early to say?
Yeah, I mean, like I've only done a couple of sessions last week and I've done one this week and I've got another one lined up. So we'll see. I mean, like my knees get a bit cranky sometimes. And I know that like a lot of his exercises are around kind of like really improving knee strength and just helping with that. So that's probably the biggest thing I'm like, hopefully I'll notice is that. And also it just does serve as a really good warm up. Like when I run, about 10 minutes in, I usually feel my calves tightening up and I feel like it's a matter of time before I get a calf strain, or I'll feel like my hip starting to hurt a little bit into the run. And I must say that like I haven't noticed the calf stuff in the last couple of weeks. And it's not, the running backwards, you can really feel it on your hamstrings and your calves. And then you go into the calf raises and the tibialis raises and like, you just feel like warmed up. And like, I think it will just help like with the running that comes after it. But yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'm going to include it as well. So
yeah. And yeah, on the PT stuff, I'm really interested to see kind of like how you feel with that. I know like it was a real journey for me when I first started working with a PT, because just to kind of like relinquish all of that and just follow stuff. And often I would get sessions and I'm like, that looks like a boring session. That exercise looks weird. It's got a super weird name. Like you have to really kind of like, it's like delegating anything, right? You have to just kind of like trust it a little bit.
But I'm so good at delegating things, Daniel.
Yeah, and trusting other people to make decisions for you.
I'm renowned for that. Yeah.
But I like for me, again, I'm able to be active 7 days a week for the most part now, and do quite a lot of volume per week and get results I haven't been able to get in the last 10 years. And I put quite a decent percentage of that down to the fact that like a smart guy is looking after my programming. And so regularly do I think, geez, man, like I wouldn't be making those decisions for myself if I was trying to do it for myself. Like, as good as we think we are at programming, especially when you've got like these issues and different bits of mobility and stuff like that, and then someone starts laying stuff out for you, like even now, like a year and a half to working with Jamie, I'll sometimes see the subtle elegance of what he's doing, and I'm like, that's just fucking brilliant. Like, I don't have the know-how, and actually we all know that when you're in the weeds, this is why coaching and stuff exists, right? When you're in the weeds, you just don't know those things and you make mistakes. It's having somebody that's just slightly outside of it and smarter than you on the programming side. I think it will create some results there that'll be good for you. Interesting to see. Or you might just be a complete pain in the ass to work for, and he might fire you, and could go that way as well.
My headphones cut for the last 30 seconds.
Or you might end up proving to be a real pain in the ass, and he fires you after 4 weeks.
I mean, I think that's a 50-50 at the moment, but we shall see. But yeah, I mean, look at this. It'll be interesting. Our report results as we go, but I'm actually looking forward to it. Which a year ago I wouldn't have been, and I think with my back issue, my arthritis, I've been so cautious of doing certain things. It's really taken me the last couple of years to get to a place now where I'm comfortable trying new stuff as well. So
how did he respond to that? Actually, when you must have mentioned that to him, did he?
Yeah. I mean, like, ultimately, he did exactly the right thing, which was like, cool, get it. Let's start by learning all your limitations and all your movement limitations, and let's kind of get a feel for it. And then you tell me when these things work or don't work, right? So we spend a lot of time kind of preparing for overhead work because that's such a big problem for me. But the side effect, because for the last 2 years, well, it was almost 3, but let's say 2 years properly, starting from scratch with empty bars and then just body weight right through to today, certain movements I've now become very comfortable in, and I can do fairly okay weight. Again, not what I've done when I'm 20, but definitely like okay weight. But certain movements I haven't done because the risk profile hasn't been worth it. But the side effect of that is like I've got now lots of imbalances. So I've done very little overhead work because of I found that's the biggest risk I have across the spine is kind of overhead. Some of that's because I've got shoulder mobility issues, and so the weight's a bit too far forward and it's not getting properly parallel. I recognise that, but some of it's just my back doesn't like doing overhead work. So now my shoulders actually become very weak in comparison to other. Exactly, Les, just like that. And like so now my shoulders are actually pretty weak in comparison to other parts of my body, which I am lifting through. And so I think, he did exactly the right stuff, which is let's figure out all the movements, let's get it all down, let's just work through it. And because I'm so comfortable, these things have been a very long time journey, right? I'm kind of, well, I don't expect my shoulders to get stronger next month. It's going to take a minimum. Just give it 12 months and let's see if we can take it where they're at today to be more mobile and stronger in the next 12 months. And by the way, like, I'm not looking to go. I'm not, like I said, I don't give a shit about what my shoulders look like. I get a shit about them being balanced well and actually solving kind of problems. Like we discussed before, I'm on an airplane and put stuff into an overhead locker. Right? To be fair, I'm not that weak. Like 20 kilos and 20, it's not a problem. But like, yeah, I try
that's
to
your goal over the next few years.
Just realise, that's terrible. But like, I don't know. I'm trying to think what could lift above your head. But let's say you something around the house or whatever else. You just don't want any challenges.
A child.
Yeah.
It's as when it gets older, it's getting harder to take it from the floor, lift it straight to the top, and put you on your shoulders. Like, my eldest is kind of probably she's 11, so there's a different kettle of fish trying to put on your shoulders. So look, it was good. I actually really enjoyed it, and these movement tests were great. Like they forced me to tackle some stuff I think I've naturally been avoiding a little bit. And then some of the moves I just couldn't even really do. Like he's like, okay, well, I want you to do X, Y, that basically involved like a really big hamstring stretch, and my body wouldn't even do it. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, I'm trying really hard. I really am. I can't get into that position. So there's good stuff, right? It's going to work well.
I do love overhead work. I love it, but I just find I always get a little twinge on my left shoulder when I do too much because I'm doing a lot of kettlebell clean and presses. Did that for like 9 months, and I think I just ended up doing a little something, and I can do a bit of it, but then if I do too much, I do get a little twinge. So I do love a bit of overhead pressing.
I tore my shoulder doing doing monkey bars. Long story. It took forever to rehab that shoulder. I mean, forever. Like I think maybe a year of constant band work, rotator cuff work. until it's even slightly functional. And
they say shoulder injuries.
Nightmare.
Like mine flared up. I didn't realize it had been so long, but mine flared up when I went to America, which was April, I think. And even now, every single week, I'm suffering with shoulder pain, and it's a bit annoying when I sleep. And it's like literally immediately after the session. So I've got a session today. I'll do it at lunch, and I know by the evening it's going to be really sore on the top of my shoulder, and it won't go away until probably just before the next session. And I've been procrastinating going to kind of get it looked at, but that's since April. It just hasn't gone away.
That must be so frustrating.
Yeah, ibuprofen and keep pushing through.
Yeah, that's how you solve it.
Ibuprofen and ice bags.
That's my strategy so far, which needs to change.
It's a terrible strategy, Daniel.
Yeah, it's not a good one. It needs to change. Go and see someone, rehab it properly. Yeah. That is on my list to do. All right. We're an hour.
Lewis, go to bed.
Lewis looks like he needs to go to bed.
Thanks, mate.
Or wants to go to bed. Or
I will be.
He might still go to bed. He's going to be doing to-do lists for his big
do a Murph before he goes to bed.
I'm going to go do some pull-ups.
He's just 1,000 of them. Was it? You got to do 2,000 a day. That's your challenge.
All right, cool. Have a good sleep,
gentlemen.
Cheers, chaps.